Hello and welcome. My name is Zafar Iqbal, and you're watching the Mojo Story. Despite US President Donald Trump announcing a ceasefire between Israel and Iran after 12 days of conflict, both sides have resumed hostilities. At least that's what happened today morning. There were fresh missiles that were launched by Iran into Israel, and there was also a retaliation by Israel. Trump has expressed disappointment and urged Israel to bring your pilots home. That's exactly what he said a short while ago. Israel has accused Iran of breaking the truce and launched strikes on Tehran, while Iran denied any violation and threatened retaliation. Earlier there were Iran fired missiles at Israel, in killing civilians in Beersheba, and earlier before that at a U.S. base in Qatar. That was also struck by Iran, though there were no casualties there. To discuss this, we're joined today by an eminent panel. Let's introduce our panel. We're joined by Rabinder Sachdev. He's a president of the Imagine India Institute. Welcome to Mojo Story, Rabinderji. We're also joined by Halet Barrel. Welcome to Mojo Story, former Secretary Personnel Israel. And we're also joined by Kamaraga, uh, who is a security analyst, defense analyst. Welcome to Mojo Story, Kamar Saab. Let me start with you, Robinder, if I may. We heard Trump's statement a short while ago. He seemed to be very disappointed and angry also on both the sides. He said that they should end these hostilities. How fragile do you think this Trump brokered ceasefire is, given the fresh exchange and strikes by the two sides?
Thank you. Pleasure to be with you and your eminent guests. In my reading, more or less, this ceasefire will go through, more or less. Not more or less, it will go through. I may be very wrong. Point is, Trump holds a huge leverage over Israel. Though, yes, over the past 10, 20 years, it's been rather Israel, the one which has been, pushing the United States into a particular policy stance. And Netanyahu has very often managed to, you know, managed to engage the United States in terms of what he would like to be, seen. That said, that's the past. Even the president, in fact, U.S. got dragged into the war. That's my take. And sure, sorry. So, what Trump has, announced, I think the ceasefire will very much hold. But yes, there are lots of questions people are asking, and you know, he has said something. And it's not working out on the ground. Is Israel listening to him? Is Iran is not listening to him? Uh, they've got an upper hand. I would beg to disagree. Iran is cornered. Sure, Iran would fight on if it were to be so. It would fight on and on and on. It went on for the 8 years war with Iran, Iraq, and all. It's a very different war if it were to happen on the ground in Iran. These two countries don't share a land border thousands of kilometers apart. Iran could descend into chaos, into anarchy, whatever they, right? So Iran, unless Iran, to my mind, decides, or the Iranian leadership, the spiritual leadership, the religious and the Revolutionary Guard, unless they decide to go into a suicidal mode and launch, acts and actions and attacks in such a way that the entire Middle East starts going up in flames, Saudi Arabia, Qatar. Yesterday's was apparently, to an extent, it seems, what we know, a choreographed, a curated, it was a
Yeah.
it was a curated, act. But if it were not to be that, then Iran has very few options. If it has to strike the US, army bases in Iraq, Syria, it doesn't matter. Iraq, Syria, unstable countries already. In that case, Iran should attack Saudi Arabia or American base in Saudi Arabia. Crown Prince would get jittery because that would set off repercussions within his own country, given the Palestinian cause. But that would mean suicide for the Iranians, whoever is the regimes and all. Right. So minus that, Iran has very little options. Blocking the Hormuz Strait, what does it do? It drives up the world oil prices, it hurts economies, takes a week, 10 days, but that does not bring revenge to Iran as a war would
Yeah.
mean. You hit America, you hit Israel. So Iran does not have many options. On the other hand, Israel, I think, achieved one part of his option, objective, uh, quite, quite far enough regarding the uranium enrichment, nuclear technology. It has
Yeah,
blasted away what seems a physical infrastructure, the centrifuges, that's what we are told, and all. It seems so. That's gone. The 500 kilo uranium, which has been spirited away and not traceable right now, I would say there's too much brouhaha about that. That uranium of 500 kilograms is 60% enriched. If the reports say 60% enriched uranium cannot be used as a bomb, atomic bomb. It is not atomic. It will not create an atomic explosion. Yeah, sure, it could create, radiation, and you can mix it with the explosive like a RDX or a TNT, and when it goes off as a blast in an area of 1 square kilometer, it will contaminate, and that contamination will create huge fears of whatever.
yeah,
So that's a very different. That's a dirty bomb. Actually, that's a dirty bomb, not a nuclear bomb.
yeah,
So, so Israel on the nuclear front has achieved the objective more or less for the next 10 years, maybe at least or more. Yes, Netanyahu wanted maybe to eliminate that forever and ever and ever. Maybe that has not happened.
yeah.
Uh, but
It might
other
have,
than
it
that,
might have slowed down for a few years. But Halit, if I may come to you, if I may ask you, that there was this missile strike in the morning here, and that caused some casualties. What is the situation there right now? There were reports that four people died in those missile attacks, and has what sort of a leverage do you think the US has as a mediator in West Asia after all what has happened in these 12 days?
Um, I think the last events have proven that the United States has a great deal of leverage in our region.
Yeah,
I think the precision strikes taken by the United States demonstrated those
yeah,
capabilities that only the United States has, and its
yeah,
willingness to bring them to bear, which has been in question over the past years. Well, that question is now gone. It
yeah,
started after October 7th with the extreme efforts to defend Israel, successful efforts
yeah,
to defend Israel from the air with the missile defense systems. And now with this precision strike, I think U.S. presence in the region is very prominent and has been demonstrated to be an important factor. Here in Israel, we
yeah,
had a devastating blow. We lost four people today, civilians,
yeah,
because Iranian missiles have always been directed at civilian populations. Myself, I live in Tel Aviv.
right,
We've incurred damage all around to mostly buildings. The Israeli public is very, very well versed in passive defense. The country is very well defended in passive defenses, shelters, and home shelters. So we have seen very few casualties compared to the number of missiles and compared to
yeah,
what the Iranian intentions were. However, each casualty is, of course, a grave loss. I do want to point out, just with regarding to the discussion of enriched uranium, unfortunately, we do have some gaps of information as to not only where the enriched uranium is, because in its form that it's been enriched to, it's very easy to transfer and could be anywhere in Iran, which is a large country. Maybe not compared to India, but certainly compared to Israel, and
yeah,
so it can be dispersed in many different sites, and we are not sure that Iran doesn't have localized enrichment stations that could actually serve to enrich the last portion from 60% to 90%, which is weapons grade. And I just point that out because that's the easy part. The enrichment from 60 to 90 does not
right.
require more than a week's work, and we don't know what residual capability is still there in terms of centrifuges that weren't necessarily in for Natans, in terms of the knowledge, and indeed in terms of weapon design. So there's still a lot of things on the table. Now is the time for the political echelon to get involved and drive this into some sort of an agreement that puts to rest these questions and IAEA
Yeah.
questions, and using the diplomatic tools such as the snapback sanctions and whatnot to make sure that Iran comes to the table in as good faith as possible to try and settle those open questions.
Right. In fact, that question was posed to President Trump that can Iran restart, its nuclear program? He said absolutely not. the word he used, that absolutely not. That entire thing is under a rock now. If we have that soundbite and we can play before going to Kamarsa.
Nuclear program? No, Iran will never rebuild its nuclear. From there, absolutely not. That place is under rock. That place is demolished. The B-2 pilots did their job. They did it better than anybody could even imagine. They hit late in the evening. It was dark with no moon, and they hit that target with every one of those things, and that place is gone.
That place is gone. Kamal
Well,
Saab, what? Yes, Helen.
I think it's probably an accurate assessment about the site, Fordow, that was attacked. To say that that's an accurate statement about the entire nuclear program in Iran. As a nuclear specialist, I'm skeptical. That's my job, to be skeptical, to keep raising the questions. But I certainly appreciate the great U.S. effort and success, tremendous success. And I appreciate the willingness to take it on and shoulder the burden alongside Israel. As a nuclear specialist, I'm always on the suspicious side, and I would like to see all information gaps here.
Right. I think you're right. He was perhaps only referring to that site that, that was bombed, and he was talking about that site only, not in general terms. That's perhaps what he was saying. But Kamal Saab, there is a message for other countries also in the region. It's not just Iran and Israel. What message does this conflict send to other regional players like Saudi Arabia, like UAE, or even Turkey? We saw that American bases were targeted in Qatar last night. How do you assess this situation?
Don't think Iran is going to attack any of these Arab countries. Qatar was different because in Qatar, the Central Command air headquarters was there. So that was the chosen. And in fact, it was chosen because none of the planes, American bombers or planes were there at the time when it was attacked. Otherwise, Iranians are having good relation now with Saudi Arabia, even Qatar. They have very close ties with Qatar, Bahrain, or also they have improved their ties, and Kuwait. All these countries. And I don't think Iranian has any ambition or plans to grab land or attack them. Iran will be the last country to go into the war with any country. They are under sanctions. Number one. Number two, their agenda is development. They want to come up, during this sanctions period.
Kamal Saab, when they strike a US base in Qatar, of course they are violating the sovereignty of Qatar. How will Qatar disassociate itself, or for that matter any country, if a base is targeted? How can that country disassociate itself from that attack? It is not possible.
Yes, it's. I don't know whether it is possible or not possible. They have informed the Qatar and they attacked it. I'm also not defending that.
Yeah,
it is not a good precedent. I'm not supporting it. But their version, what Iranians were telling, that look, you are hosting a country's base in your place, which is attacking us, which is attacking Iran. So therefore, the Iranians saying we have the right to target them. That was their thing. I'm not attacking. I have a different take. But the thing is that war could have spread. If Iranian if Iranian choose to target some of the Arab countries, but they didn't, because some of the Iranian have informed them that if any country in the region supports American or allow Americans to use their land or air space, Iran would retaliate, but they didn't do that. Secondly, because Iran never wanted to expand the war, it was not in their interest. Thirdly, they would like, the main thing that they wanted to end this war, and they got it done. And they wanted, they were retaliating. It was the Israel which has attacked first Iran. Then Iranians started attacking them. Tit for tat continued for a long period of time. Then American intervened. American realized that this is going on, mutual collateral damage or mutual destruction of these two countries, and then he intervened and destroyed these three nuclear facilities. I don't know whether they are fully destroyed or partly destroyed. There is a now we are waiting. It will be verified by the IAEA soon. They will be, and they'll go and we'll wait till that time. Then, secondly, I don't think Iranians are going to make a nuclear weapon. It's not in their agenda. Nuclear weapon, nobody, no country now can develop a nuclear weapon. All those countries which are having nuclear weapon, they have developed it during the Cold War era. In post-Cold War era, when American are the only superpower, so don't expect anybody. Iranians knows this thing very well. What they are doing, 60% enrichment, to bargain and then bring it down to 3.6% or 7%, which they have the right to do for peaceful purposes. That is what they have done it earlier also. This is what they have done this time also. And now negotiation will go on with the Americans, and I hope everything would be sought out. And I agree, this one thing, Kilgare, war will not spread again this time, because the
that brings us
ceasefire
to an important question.
will hold.
Right. Ravinderji, that brings us to an important question. Could this confrontation really push Iran closer to abandoning the IAEA framework or reactivating its nuclear weapons ambition? Because now the context is different.
True. I mean, on the other hand, I think maybe, okay, the ceasefire, and if the next steps are that, some terms and conditions for a short, medium-term future, I think they would actually include IAEA inspections being reinstated on Iran. It would include that. I do think so. The question is, maybe you're referring to the NPT, the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Would Iran, walk out of it as it was talking? Probably no. But I do think that what will happen, once the dust has settled down, and hopefully if the conflict doesn't, flare up again, that Iran will ask also for lifting of sanctions on it, right? I mean, that's something which Iran would want. Okay, you can, we'll stop the war and all, but if you want to kind of bring peace in the Middle East or some coexistence, right, then sanctions have to be lifted on Iran, some of them. So there'll be some such give and take discussions in the steps ahead. Now, a couple of points, as I was saying. See, the point is, yes, rationally speaking, Iran will not attack American bases in the Arab countries, right? But if Israel had continued, and if, let's say, Khamenei and even more of the top spiritual religious leaders were killed off, like a chicken cut neck, the Revolutionary Guard senior officials killed off, it leaves the junior officials, right? Many of them. And many of them could go rogue and angry or whatever, and they would, yes, they know that they're headed for, it's a do or die. Not only do or die, it's die, die, and die for them. So if it's die, die, die for me, then why not I hit my enemy, America, okay, be it in Saudi Arabia, let Saudis also suffer. In fact, in all of this, the ceasefire which has come about, I would think, and I do know, not know, but I'm estimating that, of course, conversations with Saudi Arabia would also have happened. The deal, apparently, one part of the discussion has been brokered by the Emir of Qatar in this particular case. And they played out sham, right? I mean, it's amazing. It's a case study, like how this whole thing, if this is what happened, that, the sham was planned out there. So therefore, the danger of regional conflict was increasing, and it would have increased even more if the top leadership was chopped off and junior officers, radicals, would have taken over. One more point I would like to say. One other reason why I think that factors converged. Okay, so Israel achieved some of its objective, maybe not Netanyahu's super dream of, forever and ever Iran being neutralized. The price of oil. With the price of oil going up, it would have gone up globally. It is. Trump is facing a situation in the United States. His tariffs, the trade tariffs, are leading to inflation in the US, right? Chinese goods or whatever imported, they're selling at a higher price. In Trump's plan before this war, overall, the idea is that if tariffs cause increase in costs of goods in America, Trump is focusing on lowering the price of oil, because oil and energy constitutes about 25% of the cost of the products sold in the transportation part. So for Trump, in order to keep inflation down in America, even with the tariffs which are higher, he needs oil prices to be low. And that's why his focus has been, of course, also on drill, baby, drill and oil. So keeping the price of oil low is a strategic interest of the United States and of the Trump administration, let's say. And in this scenario, if this was happening, prices of oil would have gone up. It would have had an impact on the American economy, which he would not want. Of course, the midterm elections are about a year away, but still in the right now or anytime he would not want. And as it is, several of his agendas are going through, but some of them are being questioned. It would have thrown up even more questions for his political in his political space. So that was another contributory reason, I think, that why Trump acted the way he did, and he acted like a boss. And West Asia or the world is seeing. I mean, there's a question going on in this world right now that
it is like a repetition of India-Pakistan confrontation, and that Trump came up with a statement that, oh, I have brokered a ceasefire, and here also in the same style, suddenly there's a post from Trump saying that the ceasefire is in place and asking both the parties to really stick to it. But he spoke about many things. Let's hear another soundbite before I before I go across to you, Halet. We will have a small soundbite of President Trump first.
Israel says that Iran violated the peace agreement and the ceasefire agreement. Do you believe that Iran is still committed to peace?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning if Israel is committed?
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I'd never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what they're doing. Do you understand that?
Do you have to respond to Iran?
Halet, Trump publicly criticizing Israel, is the Netanyahu government now risking more sort of isolation? The fact that Israel also said that it's achieved its objective, so why are they continuing airstrikes in Iran?
I think this really pertains to the core imbalance between Israel and Iran in terms of conventional capabilities. You know, Israel has a very wide bank of targets that it wanted to take out in Iran, pertaining not only to the nuclear sites, but to Iran's ballistic missile program, its ability to produce ballistic missiles, its launches. So Israel, I would assume, Prime Minister Netanyahu mistakenly believed that those 12 hours were given up to him to wrap up those missions that he was hoping to wrap up. And I think after President Trump's statement, it was made very clear that that is not the case. And I certainly don't think we will see either Israel or Iran standing up to President Trump and trying to break the ceasefire again. That would be my assessment. Of course, we're in the Middle East and anything could happen, but that would be my assessment. And I think this is also the case here in Israel, where we're looking forward to the resumption of normal life in the next coming years, provided that this ceasefire really sticks tonight. So I think that's where things are headed. And I think it all has to do initially with the fact that that it's such an imbalance conventionally. On a different issue, I would just want to also point out that I'm very much holding hope that this strategic and military success in Iran allows Prime Minister Netanyahu to wrap up in Gaza, bring all our hostages home, and withdraw and get into whatever arrangement we can figure out for the Gaza Strip. Because when you talk about Israel risking being isolated in a way. I think that's the issue that would isolate Israel rather than the Iranian issue. We have seen very stern support for Israel on the Iranian issue, not just from the United States, but from European countries. It has to do with the discussion that you held earlier about the IAEA and Iran has been announced non-compliant with core violations of the NPT. It's not, I think it was said before that it would be within its right to enrich at a certain level, not if it's defiant and non-compliant with the NPT, which is currently the case. It has open files with the IAEA that must be resolved if Iran wants to continue to be a member of the NPT and hold any kind of rights within that treaty, because just signing the treaty is nice, but you have to actually stand the clauses of the treaty, which Iran has not done. And that's why the Board of Governors of the IAEA has been addressing that. So I think in that sense, with Iran, Israel will not find itself isolated. Its position is that a country that claims to annihilate the state of Israel and is pursuing nuclear weapons in a very clear way cannot stand. That's one issue. But the issue of Gaza, I think we see a lot of discord there between the position of the Israeli government and position of other governments. And here again, we'll have to see what Trump does. We might not always know what he does behind the scenes vis-a-vis the Netanyahu government, but if we see movement on that front as well, which I'm really hoping that we do, then we will know that the Iran situation also propelled some sort of positive movement on Gaza.
Right. Ravinder, do you want to come in?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, no, sure, no, absolutely. I mean, Gaza is much more, everything is complicated in its different colors. The issue with Iran, yes, the breakthrough with Iran, if it could be, it might actually lead to a ray of hope, to some enduring, sustained peace, coexistence. Okay, maybe the Iranians would not, say that, okay, we are brothers and sisters between the Israeli people and us, but what nations have to do is to learn to live and let live. Iran has to learn to live itself and let others live. Israel also has to do the same. And that's where Israel is running into an issue with respect to Gaza. Gaza is, I don't know what kind of project they're going to make out. I mean, Trump on the one hand is thinking of, converting it into a Rivera, a piece of land as a redevelopment. Maybe it can be, but probably no. Palestinian problem is a huge problem. And I'm actually not very hopeful of that being resolved. Even a two-state nation, it's impractical to see now. So that will remain perhaps in the short term, if there can be some, savvy way of getting around that and solving that puzzle. The Iranian matter in that sense was perhaps easier to resolve than what Gaza would be. That's my point.
Kamal Saab, the point is that Iran-Israel war conflict for 12 days, there is a ceasefire now. Could this also lead to a wind down of the Gaza situation? Because that is continuing for years now, the situation there. Could this be a step towards resolution of that also? Because that is also dependent on the hostage that is still there.
Gaza, I don't think Iran alone can help solve the problem. In that case, the Arab League should have to come. It's their responsibility. Equally, Iran is supporting the movement, but Gaza, Palestine is an Arab country. And the Arab League resolution is there. They want a two-state solution. And the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has made it absolutely clear, that he would recognize, not only he, but the rest of the Arab League members would recognize Israel once the Israel withdraws from all occupied territories and Palestinian state come into existence. So that is a UN resolution also. So Israel has to withdraw from these. We may not like two-state solution. We may think, is right, but two-state solution at the moment, even the Europeans are now started talking about the two-state solution. And The Americans, are still, especially the
Yes.
President Trump thinks the
Yeah.
other way. But
Yes.
generally,
that is
Israel. One second,
that is
Iqbal, 1 second. Let me finish.
Yeah.
You don't give
Yeah.
me time.
Yeah. No, sir. Continue.
This is a problem, which is going on for 70 years. This is the problem which, because of this problem, all the other problems are erupting. So as long as, Israel continues to occupy this part of the territory, problem will remain there. War will take place, not with Iran, but the Arab countries also. Now nationalism is growing in Arab world. Egypt, which is a very close ally of Israel, is unable to promote Western nation interest or Israeli interest. Israel earlier was willing to host these Palestinians, which Israeli was supposed to expel from, but now they are refusing to accept. There's a problem within the Egyptian army. The Egyptian people. The same problem is in Jordan. And Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has also mentioned that my life is threatened, if I recognize Israel at this moment. So that is a scene in the Arab world.
Right.
So this is the main problem in the Arab world, and it has to be solved. The most international community, the global South also wanted. If you look at the UN General Assembly resolutions, you would find, most of the countries are in favor of this two-state solution. That is the only way forward.
Right. Before we wrap up quickly, Halet, how is Israel, responding to this renewed missile attack today that led to the loss of lives in Beersheba?
So we saw a response. We saw some Air Force attacks. Of course, all of this preceded the comments by President Trump. I think, again, there is such a big imbalance of capabilities between Israel and Iran in this point in time, despite the fact that Iran is this huge nation with terrific potential, over 80 million people, huge territory. We have seen Iran lose basically all of its conventional advantages or tools of balancing Israeli conventional superiority, because they lost Hezbollah completely. Hezbollah refused Iran's call to join into this battle after Israel attacked. Syria is gone in terms of Iran's needs. Hamas is gone in terms of Iran's needs. And then we saw Iranian missile attacks. And while they were, for sure, they had some damage, part of which you can see, buildings that were destroyed, some lives taken, they did not serve to deter Israel. They did not serve to deter Israel in October and then in April of 2024, when there were massive missile and drone attacks, because Israel continued its operations in Gaza and its operations in Lebanon and everything else. And it did not deter Israel from attacking Iran's nuclear program. So clearly, it doesn't serve its purpose, because Israeli defenses are strong enough, and the Israeli population is strong enough to withstand it. So now Iran is left really with very little to retaliate with. So missiles are a very big issue. And I come back to what we talked about before, how this is now moving and must move into the diplomatic and arena, where both what is left from the nuclear questions has to be dealt with, as well as the Iranian missile program. Because on the last round, when we came up with the JCPOA, or not, we didn't, but the world came up with the JCPOA, President Obama at the time said, we can't deal with everything. The missile issue stays outside of the framework. Well, that's just not acceptable anymore after what we have gone through from October 7th and onwards, instigated by Iran and executed by all of its proxies and Iran itself. So now the missile issue is also an issue that has to be dealt with in that framework, I think, through the UN Security Council. So what we're going to see from Israel now with regards to the missile, know that we're continuing to develop the best missile systems in the world, but there's also got to be a diplomatic to it that gives a framework to these illicit activities.
Right. Thanks so much, Halet, Robinderji, and Kamaraga Saab for joining us today and for sharing your thoughts. And thanks to our viewers for watching the Mojo Story. Thank you.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.